Well, this is my reproduction fabric for this chair. I took it into ProCreate and I lifted the design off of the chair and I copied the color as close as I could, all of the colors. This is the original chair again, and it has a lot of wear on it and there's some problems with it. I didn't want to take it apart because it's too delicate. I wanted to leave it alone, so I had to do a little bit of guesswork with this. I made the pattern for the back of the chair, which is a wing chair, and then the pattern for the cushion, and cut it out of a foam core that's very light. And then I made a mold for the base of the chair, which is a solid piece of wood, but I didn't have the right kind of wood or the right kind of tools to cut this, so I actually sculpted this and then made a mold out of it and then pressed some milliput into the mold, and then I'm going to join those pieces together and sand them. So here's the plan. I have made a template for the fabric, for the pillow, and for the back of the chair, but the inside of the chair has a piece of cardboard in it that holds it up. And so I'm going to actually use this stiff piece of plastic with a little bit of foam on it to put in the back. And I'm going to cut it out of this piece of paper that I printed on inkjet cotton poplin. And as I said, I designed this in ProCreate, which is a program that I use with my iPad. So I'm just going to fold this in half, and I'm going to place the patterns onto the fabric and cut it out. And I'll leave a little bit for seam allowance around it. And I'm just drawing now, again, drawing out the pattern onto that piece of plastic that has a little bit of foam on it, which will be the support for the back of the chair and the arms. And this actually will get cut into 3 pieces before I put it together, but I'm just going to leave it whole for a while, just so I don't lose any of the pieces or they don't get bent. So I'm just going to cut that out. This is just waste plastic that I had from something that I built a while ago, and I took it apart. It was a piece of foam, extra thin foam core from the dollar store, and I took some of the paper off of it and left the back paper on it. I didn't want it to be too heavy and too stiff. And I'm just going to make sure I get this lined up and mark off the places where it gets cut. And I just have a center point mark there too. I just want to show you what it's going to look like wrapped around the chair. So I'm going to score it with a tool that I use for, well, I use it for a lot of things. It's a bone tool that's used for bookmaking. But I'm just going to do this so that you can see how this is going to work. I just want to show you, give you an idea what it's going to look like. This is 1/2 of that piece that I made that supports the chair, and the 2 pieces are going to be epoxied together. There, I epoxied them, and now it needs to be trimmed. I used milliput, as I said before. It's a nice product. It's a little sticky, but it worked well in this mold. I wish I could have used wood, but I don't. As I said, I don't have the tools right now to cut something like this out. So I got it as close as I could. And there it is again. That's how it's structured. And now I'm going to sand this piece, trim it, shave down the obvious things that are sticking out on the edges and smooth it over, and then I'll sand it. And no, I won't cut myself. I've used this knife for years and years, and I'm pretty good with it. And I haven't cut myself yet, so not with this knife anyway. Sorry about my hands being so dirty. I was working on something else, and I just wasn't even thinking about what I was doing when I turned this film on, that my fingers were full of some paste that has dried there, but sorry. I wanted to make sure I got this filmed. So again, I'm just going to turn it and turn it, trim it up as close as I can get this. It would be nice to have wood rather than this heavy piece of epoxy resin that's molded, but I don't have a way yet. So as time goes on, I will gather more tools, and here I'm just going to go in between the little pieces there that are scrolled and smooth it over. I didn't let this harden for more than 10 hours because I wanted to make sure I could actually sand it and carve it. If you let it go longer than 24 hours, it starts to get harder to carve the milliput. I'm just using an emery board, smooth it out. I'm not real worried about the top because you won't see it, and you won't see underneath much. It's more the sides and the front and the back that I want to look pretty smooth. I'm just going to make sure it's going to sit level on the table. And I'm going to continue to make this furniture for my dollhouse. And I'm going to try to make one piece a week of furniture, maybe a table or a sofa, a bed. And I'm just going to keep going with it until I have enough furniture for the house, which is a Keystone 1937, Keystone of Boston dollhouse, 1937. And there it is. It gets wrapped around like that, and then the cushion gets put in, and then it gets folded through the back. And then you'll see as I go along how this fits together. The Keystone dollhouses typically had these Kage and Strombecker furniture because they didn't actually make the 1/12 doll furniture, Keystone. They made doll furniture for larger dolls. So typically people would go to those other companies that made doll furniture and put the doll furniture in the Keystone houses from those various other places. And I'm just going to use some golden paint to paint the base, and I'm using several colors: phthalo green, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna, and another color from golden that is very close to the color of burnt sienna. And I've already put in the clear leveling gel, but I think I'm probably going to put some more in and make this a little redder in color with the burnt sienna. The clear leveling gel does give it a little bit of a sheen. So I'm going to just put one coat on for now, and I'll see when it dries if it'll need another coat. And then at the end I'll touch up anything that doesn't look quite right. I think from a distance, once this dries, you wouldn't be able to tell whether this is wood or not. But you'll see at the end. Well, I always put my paint away and try to use it up. Just take all the air out of it, and it'll last a couple of weeks like this, generally, so I don't have to waste paint. Okay, there's my fabric. Now this has a backing on it. I haven't taken the backing off. It comes out of the inkjet printer with this backing, of course. You can't put it through just as cloth. I'm just going to position this pattern onto the I've doubled it over, as you can see, and I'm just going to pin it in right through the backings and the fabric. I won't take the backing off until after I have secured the seams with fray check, and I'll show that to you in a few minutes. And as I said, I have to leave a seam allowance for this, and you'll see. So I have to get them just the right spacing so that I have plenty of room to sew. And I'm going to sew this by hand. I'm not going to get my sewing machine out for this. I would prefer to do the sewing by hand anyway. I enjoy it. And I'm going to use a back stitch. And there's the seam allowance. It's not a lot, but I don't want a thick seam inside. And I'm just grabbing some better scissors here. Again, the inkjet paper is cotton poplin, which is a little heavier than cotton lawn. They do have cotton lawn, and you can also buy silk. Now I'm going to draw around some of the edges. I'm going to do it on both sides. And this is a washable pencil that you can put on fabric. You can also just get it off with a little brush too. It's just not that difficult, and it doesn't stain the fabric. So I try to use the colors blue and white for this so that it isn't obvious that I've used one of these things if I can't brush it off. One of these pencils as a guide. This is fray check. Before I take the fabric off of the backing, I'm going to put fray check all the way around every seam. And fray check is a very good product. It dries clear, and if you're making doll clothes, it's very handy, and it's washable up to 5 or 6 times. It'll stay. But this is never going to get washed, so I'm not worried about that. I'm putting a generous amount on, and this will just make the seams stronger and keep it from fraying. And it makes it easier to work with when you're working small, especially with this kind of fabric that is a plain weave and will unravel very easily and fray. And I just get this on Amazon. Okay, there's the chair. It's very faded. And there's my base. It's dry now. And there are the patterns for the seat and the backing. And now I'm going to get this print inkjet fabric backing off of the fabric. It's easier said than done. I just have to find a little corner. It could just drive you crazy, though. There it is. That's the hard part, is getting that off. Well, anyway, I jumped ahead, so you don't have to watch me do that. And now I'm drawing with the blue pencil, fabric pencil, around the hole inside so that I have a bit of a sewing guide. I want to make sure that I sew this properly so that you can see the architecture of the chair. So there's just go over some of these lines again just to make sure. It does make it easier to sew when you have a definite line to follow. And as I said, I'm going to be using a stitch that's a back stitch. It will lock into the fabric. So I make a stitch, I go backwards and make another stitch, and then go forward again, and it locks it. Okay, I'm just going to push this together. I have to sew it all the way around. I'm not going to close the ends, and then it gets sewed on each side, you'll see, as I go along. I made that pin cushion in 1979, and it still works just fine. It's needlepoint, and it was my first needlepoint project. Okay. I'm just drawing the outline for this too. And I'm going to do this one in red because I just can't, it's smaller and I just want to make sure I can see it better. Because I have so little seam allowance on this one, I want to make sure that I don't miss it. So just have to do one side and line it up as carefully as possible. I know it looks like a funny shape, but it has to have a flap on the back of it to attach it to the back of the base. So that's how it gets put on. Okay, that's just the extra stuff I took off of the fabric. I sewed this already, and this is what it looks like. I just cut the edges, the corners, so that it could fold out more easily. I'm just showing you what I did, and I'm using this bone tool to get in there and get the fabric pushed out. This will get stuffed with fiber fill. I have found a big bag of fiber fill at a Goodwill store and bought it a couple of years ago, and I'm still using it, so that's what I'm going to stuff this with. I'm going to sew all the way around first. And also I have to go in and you have to cut around the edges, around wherever there's bends and in any corner, so that the fabric will open up properly. Okay, I'm just going to turn this right side out and try to get these seams in shape again. This is the only thing about this that I had a little difficulty with, and that is to make those seams press out so they gave more of the shape of the furniture that it needed to have. And I think the next chair I make, and I'm going to make another one of these wing chairs, I'll do a lot better with it. Okay, now I'm just going to see. I'm going to mark on the outside where it has to be sewn on the outside. And I'll draw a line from each mark with the white pencil. So I have a seam that I can sew against, so I get a good straight line. It gets sewn on the outside this time, because the chair arms and the wings fold in. And this is the way it looks on the original chair. It's sewn from the outside at this point. The two lines that I drew are a little faint from the image, but they're on either side of the hump in the middle. And I'm going to sew up those lines and go from there. I've waxed the thread. It strengthens the thread, and it also helps it to stay detangled. And so I'm just going to sew up that line using a back stitch. And I'll do it on the other side as well. I like sewing by hand. I find it very relaxing. I make almost all of my doll clothes for Barbie. I collect vintage Barbies from the 1959 Barbie to 1967. And I sew all of her clothes by hand, and the other Barbie dolls that go along with her, like Ken and Alan and Midge and Skipper and the little Ricky doll and Scooter doll. So I do find it enjoyable. I only occasionally use my machine. Some little pieces, something sticking out of there. I just wanted to get rid of it before I forgot. And I'm just going to back stitch through again, and that will close up the seams so there's no issue with it unraveling. I'll just go through one hole 3 times and that will lock it. And because there's beeswax on it, that helps it to stay put. And I'll just get some more thread and do the other side and wax the thread. And I'm just using cotton thread, standard sewing thread for this. I skipped ahead so that you didn't have to watch me sew the whole thing. And I'm finishing up now. I'm just going through the back stitching to lock it in place. And give it another stitch there, cut it off, and there it is. It's sewn on both sides, although you can't really tell from here, from this view. And I'll just clean up some of this, and then the next step, which is to put the support in. And I'm just cutting it right now. I'm going to put the middle in. And this gets a little fiddly, but I can just, if I just work it in, it's just patience. And this is the first step for forming the back of the chair. And I'm just going to press that in there as much as I am able to. And the side pieces will go in. Again, it's a little fiddly, and I don't want it to bend though, so that it bends right in half. This I found was a little difficult, but I just kept working it and pushing it through. I wanted to use plastic because I thought there wouldn't be as much friction as with cardboard or something heavy, piece of paper, cardstock, heavy cardstock. And I am glad I used this scrap plastic, so foam board. Very thin foam board. Pretty sturdy, but still able to bend it. Okay, and I'm just going to push that through and push it in. And I'm just trying to get the seams smoothed out with this bone tool. And you can see now where I've sewn it on either side of that middle piece. And then you just fold it in. And now I'm going to stuff it with the fiber that I bought from the Goodwill store some years ago. And I'll just fill it up. The original chair has cotton batting in it. I think, at least that's what it seems like, because there's a little hole at the top and some of it escaped and it feels like cotton. And I have to leave enough at the bottom to turn it under so there's no seam. and then that is going to get glued to the chair. I'm not going to put tacks in it. The original chair has 4 tacks, six, one on each, 2 on each side, 2 in the back and 2 on each side, so that's 6, none in the front. And there's small tacks, you can see them, but I don't think that's going to work with the foundation that I chose to use, which was resin epoxy sculpt. It was Milliput actually. And so I'm going to use a combination of glues to hold it together. What you'll see in a few minutes. Just going to finish stuffing this. And then I'll have to stuff the seat. Can't put too much in, but you need enough. And so it holds up, it has some shape to it. These chairs aren't as realistic as some of the ones I've seen that were made a little later, and the ones that are made in a lot of the newer houses that people make. They really go for the realism. But because I'm just starting out, and because I have this Keystone of Boston house that was decorated with this type of furniture, for me this is a great learning experience, and I really have an appreciation for the look, the simplicity of this furniture and how it looks. And I will try to collect more vintage pieces, although they're very hard to come by, and I will continue to make pieces for that house. So for me it's a good experience, and I'm enjoying doing it, and I'll keep the kind of period look that the Dollhouse deserves. So I'm just doing the seat pillow now, and that gets attached from the back and just laid over like that, and then it gets folded. And just make sure I have enough padding in there, and I'm going to fold it like that, and then it'll get glued on the back like that. So I'm going to use some fabric glue here. Just get some of the stuff cleared away. And this is fabric tack. And we'll just put a generous amount on and close it up. This glue is very sticky, but I really like it. It has a wide application of uses. It isn't just for fabric, and it really is strong stuff. So I'm going to just measure that. I'm going to fold it one more time after I glue it, because it's a bit long. And just press it as much as I can. It dries rather quickly too, which is nice. Fabric tack. Now I'm going to glue that flap onto the base, and for that I'm going to use wood glue. And it's my favorite wood glue. I really like this stuff. This wood glue will stick very well to this base, and that's why I'm using it. I've used it in this way for other things before, and they last. So I'm going to finish the rest of the chair the same way as I did the pillow, the seat pillow, and there it is, it's done. I turned the edges over and glued it. As I said, the original has tacks in it all the way around, a couple on each side, but I couldn't do that with this piece of resin. So if I can figure out a way to do a wet wooden base, I will change to tacks. But there they are together, the old one and the new one, and along with my fireplace that I made last week. And every week I'm going to try to make a new piece of furniture and film it. And there's the old chair. And I think my next one will be another chair, but a different shaped chair. And so we'll have a living room that has various types of chairs and a couch. And I'll make other accessories too, such as I'll put paintings on the walls and curtains on the windows and lamps with lampshades and side tables and maybe some musical instruments too. We'll have to wait and see. But each week I'm going to try to make one of these pieces of furniture, maybe two. And as I go along, I'll show you what my progress looks like. Thank you for watching. And I'll be back with more videos on building this type of doll furniture. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment. You know, it helps people like me in the creative process if we get a little bit of encouragement from those who watch these videos. Well, that's all for today. Bye-bye.